Oh, that's nice. I always like the little notes they give us. Have a great stream from all of us here at Streamlabs. Oh, thank
Cool.
you. We'll try our best.
Don't let Big Stream tell you what to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, we'll let folks get on, but it's also been a minute, so we'll be surprised if folks are not.
Mm-hmm. The surprise stream.
The surprise stream. Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. It's
Yep.
Commander Steve.
And I forget what my Twitch name is.
When you got like
Imminent Doom. Yeah, there we go. Imminent Doom.
Yeah.
I definitely log into Twitch all the time, and I
all the time
watch people who are definitely good at games play them on Twitch. Mm-hmm. That's my hobby.
I watch my friend Peaches play a lot of horror games. So,
huh?
I watch my friend Peaches play a bunch of horror games. So
yeah, I like watching people play games that like are games that I'm not interested in. Like I don't want to play this game, but like I want to know what the plot is of this game. Or sometimes it's like I'm good at this game, but I want to watch people who are even better at this game.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Maybe I'm missing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, like I figured out my strats, but like what other strats are people using that work well? I don't super enjoy watching people be bad at games. Like you need to be, if you're bad at a game, you need to be really, really funny.
Yeah.
Like game.
So I have been considering my throwback for the week when we get to it. I'll talk about it more, but I was realizing I never beat Alien Isolation.
What? Good game.
It's a great game. Holds up really well visually. Like they broke their foot off in that one. So now looking at it on but I realized, man, I've rebought that game multiple times to play on Xbox and haven't done it. And I realize why, and I'll tell you that story when we get to that spot. But I realize now why. It's not just the game itself. There's an additional experience that happened that not everyone has had. And there's going to be a select few that are like, oh my God, I know what you're talking about. So we'll get there. All right. State and Nerd Union, doing a quick special show. Now, we're going to get to some of our normal categories, but you've seen the title I put on there. Are Pro Console editions worth it? We don't know. I mean, well, we do know. We have an opinion, but yeah, that's what we want to have a conversation about toward the end of the show. So that'd be our main topic. Cool. We're gonna hit off, do some quick bites, do some quick hits, and our first topic today, Florida, as always, in the news in more ways than one. And a Florida teen has been wrapped up in a video game addiction case. We've talked about different addicting video games on the show in the past. And on first glance, you kind of think, okay, maybe he developed a similar game like that. So there's a large kind of class action lawsuit going against Meta, Epic Games, Roblox especially. They really, that's a video in itself. Yep. And but this kid published a VR game under Meta from his company Banana Games. The game is Capuchkin, named after, I'm probably saying that wrong, Capuchkin monkey. You, as a character, you chase this monkey around, and you get points for chasing the monkey, and you play it on different environments. It's as simple as that, is my understanding of it. And this 10 when he started making it in Unreal, and has been wrapped up in the lawsuit. His mother, parents are kind of a little concerned because the money he was making from it, they're putting it towards his college. So he's like kind of making sure he can be. So it actually sounds like he's going to be really set for the little bit of profits he's making off the game. Even has 1,000 concurrent users.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good on a VR game.
Yeah, for a VR game for something that's like among the first things that you've probably ever made, like that's pretty decent.
Yeah. Steve, thoughts?
So yeah, we were talking about this before the show started, and like for me, like looking at the game, like this definitely does look like the kind of like a goofy game that you'd pay like $10-15 for. There's a lot of games that are similar to that kind of stuff on Roblox, from what I understand. I have a lot of opinions about Roblox, largely negative. Um, for like my opinions on this style of game aside, like it does have an audience. Now is it actually like an addicting game? Because like there are like psychological manipulative tactics that you can put into a video game, like whenever Farmville came out, or Restaurantville, or like all those little goofy Facebook games that came out around like 2010, 2011, 2012, or whatever. Like there's certain things that like you can put into a game that are there to get you to spend money. Like we've talked about Bethesda, where like, oh man, you can buy the Santa Claus power armor suit for 1,200 coins, but you can only buy 1,000 coins for $10, or you can buy 2,000 coins for $20 or whatever. It's like, what are you gonna do? Oh, you're not gonna buy the less amount, so you might as well but spend more. Like there's a lot of other things that like they do from the business and marketing side to manipulate you into spending more money. But like from what I've seen from this game, like for the reasons that this is roped in, it looks like it's just like, yo, he made a game that's a lot of fun. And rather than like, oh yeah, the game is structured to get you to come back and play as frequently as possible within the first month, because if you can get somebody playing a game for, I think it's like 21 days or 22 days or doing anything for 3 weeks, then you can establish a habit. And like a lot of crap games like Farmville, and basically every game that you've ever played on mobile that has in-game app purchases is gonna work that same way, because like those earlier games laid the foundation for how the math and the psychology works out. And I don't think this game's doing that. I think this game is literally just chase a monkey and play tag.
Yeah. Should be noted, we sourced the Polygon in this in this topic, and they were talking about with some of the different companies listed, that they met with psychologists and like UX designers in that kind of cohesive environment. And I'm like, yeah, that I could see Epic doing that, or like some of these other studios doing that. He was 10.
Yeah.
Which psychologist you think was calling up a 10-year-old? It was like, I know how to make your game more addictive.
It's like, yo, put this in the game. It's like, stuff like what is it? NBA, like 2K, whatever,
like the
FIFA,
player cards and like that.
Yeah. All that stuff is absolutely in there to sucker you into playing more, because you're like, oh man, but I want to play as the digital version of my favorite basketball player. Like all that stuff is manufactured. Like, oh, if we do this, then like they have to pay $5 more, and oh, if we lower the probability of this, and like they have to open at least 20 packs to get something good, and it might not even get what you want. Loot boxes and that whole meta is different than what this little kid's doing.
Yeah. So is it, possible another developer got in the process and added something when it got put on the meta? Like maybe he doesn't know that aspect. So there's like, hey, we're going to add the store option to your game. But I'm like, even then, like, yeah.
Even if, because he's 10, so like literally, like he came out when Farmville came out. So for him, like if he's putting it in the game, like he's just adding mechanics that have been in video games since he was born into video games. Like he's not the mustache twirling person. He's just like, yo, I've never played Super Mario World, so I didn't know that not every game has in-game transactions or whatever. Like that's just what they do.
Yeah, that makes me a little sad. Because that's a possibility, and that bums me out a little bit.
He probably has a Nintendo Switch. Like he's played a game without in-app transactions.
Yeah.
He hasn't played a game that like they gave a review for it, before you bought it. But like he's probably played a game that doesn't have in-app transactions.
Oh man! So hopefully that gets resolved well. For Doug, We got Doug on the chat. Good to see you.
What up, Doug?
What up, Doug? All right. We're going to move on from the quick hits to the. We don't have any major movie news. I do think I'll go plug real quick. Me and Tom are going to talk about the summer box office next week. Kind of recap everything that happened. My list, I was so close on my predictions were pretty darn close. I missed on like 2 movies. Freaking Garfield. It's so random. But there was a bunch of D23 and like Comic-Con trailers that while they've leaked online, they haven't dropped, which is actually kind of weird because that's been like a month. I know we're in September now, so that's been 2 months ago. 2 months ago from Comic-Con, and then a month from the D23 stuff. So it's usually one of them. Maybe they wouldn't drop all of them for sure. But it's kind of weird that nothing else has come out. We did get Brave New World, or not Brave. What's new? I forget it. Yeah, no, I think it is Brave New World for Captain America, but that was already out before.
Yeah, Brave New World. Yeah,
that was already out before Comic-Con came out. So it's a little. Yeah, we're going to talk about it, and it could just be all the turmoil that's happening in Marvel right now. It's just kind of got them not sure when they're going to drop and release a trailer and stuff. But they showed a lot. They showed a lot. But yeah, we will get to those trailers when we have them, and more movie news stuff next week. Yeah, so that means you know what time it is.
Is it game time?
I think it's game time.
Oh, let's go. So game time. We have in surprising news, Astro Boy is the second best-selling game this month, behind only NBA 2K 2015. Literally just came up in conversation, as if we read the show notes beforehand. But
Yeah,
literally just came up. But as if. As if. So behind only NBA 2K 2025, the sequel to PS4's popular platform has found a new life on the PS5, where its popularity was sort of a hidden surprise. I have not played the more recent Astro Boy. I'm a little bit behind the curve on that, but I figure I'll wait till it comes to Steam because I've switched over to console gaming these days. So one day I'll get back into. I'm more into collecting classics now, where I'm like, oh yeah, hit me with like a classic version of like Kid Icarus or whatever, and I will, like the dude from Toy Story 2, put it into a special container where I'll never touch it and never play it, and then emulate it later because I'm like, I paid for this, so I'm allowed to do that.
I mean, I guess that means our Jack and Daxter obsession would also fall under that.
Yeah. It's like I have every Jack and Daxter except for I think the remake. But yeah, I'm a little bit behind on Astro Boy, but apparently Astro Boy's popping off, which is great news. I love it when Japanese IP games pop off. The other one that was really popular but like not quite good enough was the more recent Gundam game that came out. I think it was earlier this year, and basically.
Because I think Jerry was talking about it.
Yes, the one Jerry was talking about, and man, it sounds like it'd be great if you could play it. But Astro Boy you can play, and apparently it slaps.
Yeah, because I put in the notes surprise popularity because I played on a PS4.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine. Like it wasn't bad, but it was just fine. And I don't remember a bunch of PS4 players like talking about it that much. And if I remember correctly, it was bundled. So I think it was like in a lot of some of these like later PS4 bundles, especially when the PSVR started to come out. There were some like bundles and stuff of that. So yeah, hearing it's blowing up. I guess maybe there's like a smaller group. I guess it was just more popular on PS4 than it was led on to believe. Yeah. Doug saying I don't think it had a PS4. No, we're talking about because Astro Boy. There was an Astro Boy game on the PS4. It was a new platformer that just came out on PS5, and it's taking advantage of all the haptic feedback. Like If you need a demo on the tech in the PS4 or sorry in the PS5 controller, like this is the game for it. Like it's taking advantage of everything, being able to do different things on the touch, on the controller. All those touted things they said you were going to do on the PS4 controller finally come true. Speaking of your collecting, you want to put stuff in a glass case. How upset would you be if that thing was found out to be completely fake?
Where have I heard of that? Buying something that doesn't actually exist and is only there to disappoint. Something Fire Festival?
Oh yeah. Get a sequel.
Somehow.
I don't doubt that. How? Who gave this man money? Okay. There was a fake video game ring that was taken down. I think actually said in the UK. There are different like European agencies involved, a agency from the UK, but they were found in Italy. They were like making different fake cartridges of Super Mario Brothers, Street Fighter 2, and actually, I want to put this in two boxes to kind of let you think about. Legality wise, it's murky, but reproduction carts have been a thing for a long time, and sometimes just if you know you're going to be playing a game a lot. Let's say if I was going to I wanted to play Pokemon Red and Blue on my handheld, and I just knew I'm going to be wearing that thing out. Let's just say for the sake of argument, it actually might make sense to hey, let me leave my original cartridge alone. Like Steve was just talking about doing an emulator. Let me just go grab a reproduction cart so I can use that and not destroy my original. Regardless of, we're not saying what you should or shouldn't do. I'm just saying that I can.
That's what happens.
Yeah. But there's a difference in that and then legitimately trying to pass off one as, oh no, that's totally legit. Yeah. And don't open it.
Yeah, like we've all been to the corner store or whatever and bought like a Blue Eyes White Dragon that's like a little too holographic, and you're like, look, I know this is a fake Yu-Gi-Oh card. You know this is a fake Yu-Gi-Oh card. Like you're not trying to trick me in, and they're saying these are real Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But this is, oh yeah, man, this is a real Blue Eyes White Dragon, and then it's like, yo, this hat comes right off. What are you talking about?
Oh man, I used to for Pokemon cards, the telltale sign was like the coloration on the back of the card would be wrong. Like the blue of the Pokemon back would just be off.
Be a little bit off. Like, what annoyed me was that people, when you were playing a game, people would be like, oh, this card's fake. And I'm like, bro, how does that matter? Like, you have no energies on the board, and you worried about one of my cards not being not being real. Like, knock this off. But yeah, for this ring, like that definitely sucks. Like, and I have a couple of things in my collection that like I know are authentic because I got them when I was a kid. Like, yeah, but some of this stuff goes for like several $100s, and you're trying to hunt like a particular copy down. Like you want, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo or something. And then you finally get your hands on a copy, and it's touted as an authentic copy, but it's not. And it's like that's like, somewhere in the magnitude of like $450, $500 out the window.
Yeah. Let me give some like quick. I know we're gonna get into tech, and we'll get to our main topic real quick. It might be worth making a video for like things to look for if you're at a store, because online is always gonna be a little bit of a crapshoot. More or less. There were some things I'd recommend. I'm on pricecharting.com, and at least there, like if someone was selling fakes, like they're going to get banned off the platform. Like, because if you can report them, they'll get banned. So at least that keeps one person off from being able to use that. And generally they'll give you a lot of photos and stuff so you can kind of understand. And if there's going to be like a high profile sale, there's going to be a lot more work. And like if someone's selling a collection, you're probably going to be calling them like, hey, I'm going to come down and check the stuff out. If they got mad at you and like, oh, I don't want you to open any of these cartridges up, that'd be a telltale sign. That also helps if you're going to go into a store that's selling something. It's like says they're a collector store. Any collector store that's worth their salt should also let you open the cartridges. I'm not saying they're going to be super excited about it, like, because you got to be careful and stuff like that. but they should be able to know how to do that because they should have done that to check
themselves.
Themselves. So if they're looking at you with the it's like, but they slapped a $200. I'm not saying they're being fraudulent by putting the $200 on the cart, whatever the price is. But I'd be a little hesitant if they didn't know about that, and then are balking at you for wanting to verify that.
It's also like opening a cartridge isn't particularly hard to do. So
right.
It's like as long as you don't run the era of you pop it open and then all the internals just drop on the floor. Like that's the only main concern. It's like don't pop it open and then lose control of it and let it fall on the floor. Some people have a dexterity stat below 10, so gotta be cautious. I've seen it.
Doug said, back on Astro, they played for Astro's Playroom and enjoyed it immensely. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about on PS4. Yeah. So that's all we got. We're going to be back on video games in a sec, but actually,
would you?
You want me to kick off Check the Tech?
Yeah, go ahead and take that one.
So this one, as someone that can be rapidly anti-Apple, as I talk to you on an Apple laptop, I know hypocrisy, longer conversation. This one caught my eye, and I think immediately I was like, "Yeah, this is more like a legality thing, not necessarily like Apple was trying to cheat per se. If this makes sense." So, Apple has to pay a $13 billion euro tax to Ireland specifically. But really what it was is that it's something that should have been collected from 2016 until now. And there's been just back and forth on which country in the EU is going to get it specifically, because Apple runs a headquarters in Ireland. And while, yes, Apple does pay U.S. taxes as a U.S.-based country, they're not solely exempt from other countries' taxes as a result of that, which is what part of their argument was. They just have since given that up, and it seems like there's going to be no more appeals, and they're just going to pay the amount. But yeah, on this one, it doesn't look like there's anything nefarious. It's just more of a kind of back and forth on who are we paying this to? Fine, we'll pay it, but who are we paying? Who are we paying it to? And it's Ireland. Ireland's getting that's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Euros. Whew.
It's like we're about to fix all the roads.
Oh man, that iPhone 16 might I don't know what price it was just advertised at, but you might need to.
Everybody in Ireland getting free iPods or iPhones rather.
Yep. And then we're getting in our last Check the Tech. We're getting into some antitrust.
Yeah, so it looks like so last month a judge ruled in favor of the DOJ, affirming that Google is or does have a monopoly when it comes to search and how Google is structured. A key distinction is to make that other companies were named in the course of this. There is, and when I say who other companies are, like for search engines, you're like, oh well, nobody uses that, and it's like that's kind of why Google does a monopoly. You're like, oh yeah, well there's like Ask, there's Bing, hold up, there's other ones I have. Yeah, DuckDuckGo, but it's like, when you download like or when you buy a new phone, it's like what search algorithms are on there by default, and it's like Google, and then anything else you probably have to download it yourself if you want something else. Yeah, so the breakdown of how this is described as a monopoly kind of also maybe lays the groundwork for how they'll demand that Google kind of break themselves up, but also an opportunity to go after Apple for possibly having a monopoly.
I think in some, I probably could have put a couple more bullet points on there, so I apologize.
Nah, you good.
There's so we some of the framework for how this is being tackled, kind of jumping back into the video game and the App Store world, we saw a little bit of this with Epic and Apple 2 summers ago, when Epic was claiming like hey, why can't we take our own payments? And just because our app is on your store doesn't mean we can't have our own payment system within the app, right? And eventually that got settled. But some of the framework kind of showed Apple had to put a lot of information out there on how they're maintaining that, and other developers sort of stepped up in those hearings, and that at least put a chink in the armor for a little bit. This one is getting into Google search, but their advertising practices are also being brought into it. And the key thing is where they're positioned ad wise on non-Google held platforms, specifically when it gets to like the Apple App Store, Microsoft stores, and different things like that. So what's the first thing you're forced to get when you want to search, right? Heck, even Microsoft, as much as they're trying to push Edge, when surprisingly, like, I mean, Edge is a Chromium browser, so like it's actually, I know we have crapped on IE for decades, but Edge is fine. Like, you know,
Edge is okay.
Yeah,
but it's like it's really hard to overcome the inertia of, like, 20 years of being the browser that you use to download other browsers. So
yeah,
like, am I gonna go out in public and be seen using Edge? Hell no.
Wash it off of me.
Other software developers be like, look at him, he's using Edge. Point at him and laugh. I can hear them already. No thanks.
Yeah. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. Regardless of what your politics are, this is a sorely needed a win for a lot of smaller developers, websites in general, especially when it comes to search. We've talked about. I could talk for a while on Nerd Union's ranking on sites and stuff, and where we used to be at, and a lot of smaller sites that could legitimately have a living with a couple of writers, spend a little bit on advertising, and people could find their site and choose to engage with it how they wanted to, and not be a bunch of clickbait farms just pumping out nonsense. Like a lot of that is impacted by Google, by how they place and put themselves on the ranking, or have become number one. There's a great, I'm gonna air clean. I'll grab the link, and I'll House Fresh. Maybe it's House Fresh. So all this site does is rank air filtration devices for your house. That's all they do. Tell you which ones have been good for like dog dander, like pet dander, different things like that. And was like the top site, and like wrote the best articles on it. Like hands down. No, you should be like, oh, look at the. It's like no one else is tackling this legitimately as its own form. Forbes has articles on it. And you might be wondering, why is Forbes, the business website, doing HIPAA, like as far as like HIPAA filter rankings and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That's
it's like that. It's like that meme of like, oh, I guess we're doing blah 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 now. It's like HG, the people who make washing machines are making Gatling guns. It's like, all right.
That is what the internet is now, as a result of Google's monopoly on search. Is that everything is tooled towards pleasing that algorithm. There's no algorithmic rivalry or challengers to that, because they dictate that. No one has any real option to go anywhere else. And then if you are legitimately a site that, yeah, sure, if you want to debate me on whether that site was the best one, sure. But I think we could all argue, using the GE example, they shouldn't be the ones making Gatling guns. Forbes shouldn't be making Gatling guns. Right?
A very quotable sentence.
So I'll definitely be this. So the last piece of that is, since it's been ruled in DOJ's favor, it's now more of a matter of what what are the repercussions and what's the structure of penalty look like? Because it's not just a financial, like, oh, we're gonna pay the U.S. government.
Don't be a monopoly. You stop that, but keep serving up dope results.
Google search might get pulled away from them and have to be splintered off into its own company without the influence of Alphabet. as a parent company, and that's wild to think about how that's gonna. So it's not for certain. It seems to be where some of the things you get into the articles seem to be the way it's leaning, but that has not been. That's what the next couple of months and going into the start of next year is going to be completely about. Is what does that look like? And we haven't really seen a tech company get broken up like this in the modern era. Like we've AT&T back in the 90s.
I was about to say, what's the last thing I could think of is phone companies.
Yeah, Microsoft a little bit, but even that didn't have the impact that we thought it was going to. You know, because they got in trouble for the way they were buying some companies at, but still the number one OS as far as just on your like on desktops computers is still Windows. Now mobile is a whole different beast, but you know, so they were called out for it and they took a penalty, but it didn't really break Microsoft up.
It's basically like for a lot of times that you know this kind of stuff has happened in the past where somebody's called out for like, oh hey, this is a monopoly. Like it's less of a real solution to the problem, and it's usually just a fee you pay because somebody figured it out. And it's like, you're a monopoly. Pay I don't know, like 7% of this year's annual income in a one-time fee, and then don't do that anymore. And it's like, what does this mean? So this has some possibly interesting ramifications.
Yeah. So we'll keep you up to date on that because we have a vested interest in that, trying to figure out what's going to happen there.
A little bit.
Well, a little bit, you know. Main topic time. All right, that Switch Pro is coming out, son.
Yep. In the show notes under the title topic, "Are Pro consoles worth it?" I wrote, "Only if it's a Switch Pro." Got him. Which, like, you know, now I'll say, like, we're probably much closer to getting a Switch Pro than we were, you know, 3 years ago when the Switch was popping off and selling like the best thing that's ever been made.
Yeah. I mean, sales have been down, but they haven't like cratered. If we're talking about
not
Switch.
At all. There's still a bunch of stuff that they got coming out that's looking pretty awesome. So, you know, if they decide to do it, like I would expect that a Switch Pro by this point would just be the Switch 2 or a Switch U. I don't know. Medium shrug. But
I think really we've talked about that before. I'll get back on the Wii U in a second.
But we did just have the announcement for the PS5 Pro drop. What was that? Late last week?
Thursday?
Last Thursday. Yeah. Last Thursday. I think the most, like, you know, they did some side by sides of like, oh man, so this is what it looks like on the PS5. And this is what it looks like on the PS5 Pro. And they're like, basically everybody is doing the squint meme of like, I guess that looks a little bit different. Like a little bit, maybe. Like some of those pixels by the shadowing and maybe the stuff way in the back there. Like it looks like it was comprised of like maybe 50 pixels before and now it's 60, I think. But it's, you know, they did like a side by side in the presentation to show you this is the difference. Like, can't you see it? And I'm like, the PS5, like, to its credit, already looks really good. And you know, when you put the side by side and you're like, oh, here's the Pro, like I'm like, well, you gave us a product that already performed like really well and presented games that looked really good, and then you made it a little like imperceptibly, nearly. I won't say imperceptibly because like I can see a difference if I look at like every part of the picture like a computer, and I'm like that part is a little bit better on the PS5 Pro, just a little bit. Is it $700 worth better? Now that's where you're doing the math.
So I'm gonna go on a rant.
Commence rant.
I'm not blaming. This is gonna sound like, oh, he's mad at PC gamers. This is not what I mean. I'm talking about a very certain subset of PC gamers.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that, as soon as the 3000 series NVIDIA graphics cards came out, even when they already had the top of the line of a card that just came out the previous year. I'm not talking about they've had, like, if you've had a graphics card for 5 to 7 years and you're like, oh, hey, there's a new one coming out and I'm going to, you know what, that new one, all right, cool. I'm going to spend money. Fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the folks that upgrade every year or
You mean like Apple people? It's like, oh man, like the new phone came out. Sick. Like it's for PC people, it's the same thing of like, why are you upgrading your computer every year? Like the whole benefit of having your own PC is that you don't have to do that. And like when you're ready, you can go through and just like upgrade whatever parts you need. Oh, it's like, oh, I need to improve the RAM. I got 4 more slots. Bam, throw some more in there. Need a little bit more, like a little bit better hard drive. Get an M2, get a solid state, whatever you need to do. It's easy. Yeah. Oh, real quick, Doug said, other than the SSD, it's sad how much better the PS4 is than the PS5. Yeah, I mean, I think when I can't remember if it was the PS4 or the PS5 that when they came out, they tried to pull some stuff where they were like, oh yeah, it's not backwards compatible, and everybody was like up in arms about it. I can't remember if that was the PS4 or the PS5, but I know they try to pull stuff like that. It might have been the Xbox. I know they did it too.
I mean, they both have had their different iterations of it. Yeah, it's Doug's saying. So like there just hasn't been the PS5 games look good, but there hasn't been one that like has blown me away compared to where we were at the end of the PS4's life cycle. And that generally is where stuff, and that's actually,
I mean, I would say if there was one for me, it would be Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man looks Spider-Man looks fantastic. Spider-Man looks fantastic.
Yes, actually, I will take that back. Yes, yeah, that was fantastic.
But when they did the side by side, and when they're like, "Here's the PS5 and here's the PS5 Pro," I'm like, "You showing me a game that already is one of your like best looking games, and then you show it to me on a new console, and I'm like, this still looks really good."
Yeah, I mean, it's part like I like new cool stuff. So there's always that going to be that piece of me. And I was like, oh man, but they were able to get more power out of it. Yeah.
I mean,
but
no, go ahead. I'm forming a thought.
But so like going back to that Spider-Man example, or actually, I'm gonna use a PlayStation example. I'm gonna go back to like the first, or a PS2 specifically. What's frustrating me about the Pro series that we're having in this current, like since we've had since the Xbox One and PS4, this current era of Pro systems, is like, how are you going to maximize what that console can do? Because just adding more to it is not how developers get to it. It's like, I'm not like a developer knows like, this is what I've got to work with. Like if you think about like how we can go back to the story of how Crash Bandicoot worked on the original PlayStation, and there were some tricks. And
Crash Bandicoot was a marvel. Like if you ever have the opportunity, you the viewer ever have the opportunity to go to watch a video about how the developers made Crash Bandicoot, it is a technical marvel. It's like watching how like the science behind Doom works. It's so interesting.
It is and I would say like if you want like a recent example, developers when they were talking about Tears of the Kingdom, and they were like, because you were like, well, that's not graphically no, but the system of joining objects together, developers' brains were breaking on how they made that happen, and that your Switch was not crashing out. They were like, what? They're like that.
One structure to another, and it's just like, yeah, there you go. Because it's the computational power that you would expect.
But I don't think we get that if you're just dropping in another console somewhere in the cycle to say, oh, well, now this one can take advantage of a different SSD architecture, because it's not even like necessarily better chip per se. I know like we can talk about that a little bit more, because there's some gains you'll get on this chip, but it's not like an M1 to M2 or M1 to M3 kind of jump even. And even that, we now have seen that, you know, those initial games we thought of, if you take more time and kind of step away from it, kind of look at over time, it's like there's a lot of people that haven't got rid of their M1s as far as just like the Apple chip, because it's like, why?
Because it's doing fine. So before I get to my initial thought, I'll touch on the like it's performing fine idea. It's like within like I guess like tech in general, like our technology doesn't work worse. Like the Apple II runs no worse today than it did when it came out, but our expectations change, and then we're like, oh, this isn't good enough, or this is bad. Like, it's not bad, it's exactly what it was and exactly what it was made to do, but now we want more, so we get new stuff. But if you're still getting your needs met by your current system hardware, then like you don't necessarily need to upgrade. Like, I'm looking at the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, I'm like, everything on the PS5 still looks fantastic. Ghost of Tsushima looks great, Spider-Man looks great. I'm not like, oh man, I wish this looked a little bit I wish this amazing artful masterpiece looked a little bit nicer. Like what I was gonna get into, brain, something. I think that the difference between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro could have been better articulated by showing a new game that highlights and utilizes the new capabilities of the PS5 Pro over the PS5. Because if you just like if you're just throwing in new hardware, then that's just like you're going in. If you were playing on PC, of like, oh, I went to my friend's house and I turned the graphics to ultra high, and then now I'm popping off. Like, you're not really getting like like, you don't really understand what this new machine can do, other than just that it looks nicer. And like, if the PS5 Pro is there to just be a tool that looks a little bit nicer, and you know, maybe they're not intending, maybe the target audience for the PS5 Pro isn't people who already own a PS5. Because like, for like, if you've, what's a good comparative? Nah, I'll stick with this one. But like, if you already have a PS5 and you're like, yeah, I'm kind of content with this, but like, if a PS5 was never enough in the past however many years it's been out to get you to buy a PS5, maybe the PS5 Pro is, and that will get new people who aren't already in the Sony PlayStation market to join the market. And I'm like, that's completely reasonable. But for everybody who already owns one, like, it's like this, you know, superfluous idea of like, why would I get two PS5s? Like, I already have one, and it does its job tremendously well.
It's like, well, you sell one, you get rid of that one, and then you come on.
Yeah. It's like you could go to GameStop and be like, okay, here's $40, give me a PS5 Pro. Like, here's my PS5.
Oh, it hurts. Oh, it's accurate. It hurts.
GG, GameStop. Rip.
So how's that stock doing? That's a longer. Oh, goodness. Yeah,
$20. Yep.
So the word pro may be a kind of a newer occurrence, but I was thinking about some different retro consoles, and even as I listed some here in the show notes, I immediately thought back, and I'm like, oh man, I missed some. We could argue the classic Intellivision and Atari, like, because you got the 2600 first, but then you get the 5200, right? You got the different Intellivision versions and stuff there, Magnavox, Odyssey, and things like that, that are kind of in the same. We got better color. We can put more. This is where you get into the whole bits fight that eventually happens when you get to like the PlayStation and the PlayStation was like, ooh, this one's 32 bits. Oh, this one's 64 bits. Oh god, and this one can write how many polygons? It's like, oh snap.
Yeah, but to be fair, like back then, like that was when that kind of stuff had like a tangibly noticeable difference. And like, this is a 16-bit game, this is a 32-bit game, this is a 64-bit game, and I can look at them and stylistically, fundamentally see and understand how they are different.
Moore's Law was very much in a play.
Yeah, we were popping off back then.
Doug said, "Yeah, I was going to get to the 32X for Sega. CD, CD sort of did kind of like a playoff. I don't know if it stacked like it did on the Sega Genesis, but you basically were getting an upgrade on using the Sega CD versus because it had that back port.
Yeah, it had that thing that you just put right on top.
Yeah.
But credit to them for like having people be able to upgrade their existing system and just make it better.
Yeah, there's that RAM upgrade for the N64, which Doug pointed out too. I remember if you bought Donkey Kong 64, it was one of the first games that needed it. It was like,
yeah. I was just about to ask, was there any other game other than Donkey Kong 64 that needed it?
I know maybe Pokemon Stadium.
I don't think so.
Maybe. I could be wrong.
I'm gonna check.
Yeah, it's kind of curious. This one's actually needed it versus, or was it? Now it's gonna be like, was that a marketing gimmick, Nintendo? Were you preparing to hopefully get Final Fantasy VII on there and Perfect Dark? Yes, Doug. Yes.
I was gonna say Perfect Dark, but I like distinctly remember in my child brain of not seeing it on Perfect Dark. Oh wait, but to get all the features. Okay, yeah, that's possible. Because I think when I was a kid, me and my cousins would play, and we just threw the game in there, and we were like auxiliary like things to plug into your console. I'm not touching that. That's how I get electrocuted. I'm good. Okay, here's some. Apparently there's here. I found a list on Game Rant of 18 games that utilize the expansion pack on the N64. So apparently it was a. Doug said the most of the RAM was an optional upgrade for most games. So you had StarCraft 64, which I never played.
But that makes sense.
That was likely outside of the realm of the the 12 and under rating for what kids can play. And I'm like, real-time strategy game was definitely not a thing in my brain. I was just trying to figure out type advantages in Pokemon at that time. Let me see. Apparently Gauntlet Legends, fantastic game. We're really overdue for a new Gauntlet game. Really fun.
Really. But I have a 5. Go ahead.
Duke Nukem 0 Hour, Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. I did not play that Castlevania game. Daikatana. Yeah, that's one. Okay. Turok 2 Seeds of Evil. I don't think I played Turok 2. I think I played Turok 1. Army Men, Sarge's Heroes. Oh, say again?
I think I played 1 and 3 on the Turok games.
Yeah.
2 doesn't sound super. Seeds of Evil doesn't sound familiar.
Nope, you were right. Pokemon Stadium 2 needed the extra.
Okay, gotcha. So not the first one, second one. Got it.
Rayman 2, The Great Escape. I do remember that because it was really annoying because my cousin broke the pack while we were partway through the game, and I think we couldn't finish playing it for some reason. Or he broke the game partway through the game. I can't remember.
I was posting a meme on my Facebook page about games that I couldn't finish, and I needed to put that one on there because there's a level or something that it probably is a camera issue, if I remember right. Like you can get past it, but at the time I just didn't know. Like it just makes it hard to see where you need to get to, and it just drove me nuts as a kid. And there weren't a ton of Rayman 2 guides out there for you to like consult. And that's
it's like going on GameFAQs and like hoping that like your favorite guide person has written something about it. The last couple we got, and a lot of these they mention like what you needed it for, and a lot of it is like improved resolution. Like Donkey Kong 64, like you had to have the pack to play the game. There's a game called Revolt that looks like a racing game, which is just resolution increase. Hydro Thunder, apparently multiplayer allowed for 4 people if you had the pack. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, enhanced and better resolution and 3D experience, quote unquote. Resident Evil 2, better resolution. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, better performance. Apparently, it was a requirement for Majora's Mask, but I do not remember that. And then Perfect Dark, there were extra levels for campaign and multiplayer. So, neat.
I'm curious. Majora's Mask?
Yeah, I don't remember that. But like maybe it's probably one of those things where it's like when you grab the controller that you need it on, and then you just play it, you make it happen. So it might have been present the whole time, and like my brain was like, I don't understand what this device is or what it does, but it's in it. It's already there.
Right. Yeah, because I'm gonna say, because I had. Because my first N64 game was Diddy Kong Racing.
Great game.
Solid game. If they came up with a sequel right now, I'd be on it. Yep. Right now, all day.
I guess they were probably like, we don't need a direct competitor to Mario Kart coming from our own studio.
Oh, right, because it was Rare. Oh, that's right. That that's probably what it's like. Nah, you got one time to do that. Nope,
nah, you did this too good. Knock that off.
Like seamlessly. Okay, sorry. Side Diddy Kong. There's very few games where you can seamlessly go from driving to air to water and hovering, like just flawlessly.
It's really funny because like now you can do that in Mario Kart, but like Diddy Kong Racing did it first.
Yeah, but I wonder where they got this from. Yeah, I will say I am glad that Pro consoles haven't caused confusion for people that want to get into Xbox or PlayStation. So I'm like, at least.
Well, I feel like they kind of have, because like when you're a parent and you're like, oh wait, do I want the Xbox Series 1S, Xbox One, or do I want the Xbox Series 1XL, Xbox One X? And like,
okay, sorry. Yes, and because we, because I've been railing about this naming scheme for years on here. You got me. You, thank you. Yes. I guess what I was trying to say is that like people are still buying these consoles regardless, but so maybe I guess through the confusion, like they're still finding their way to water almost. But let's talk about that price.
Though. Yeah, I did see. So one of the like news folk who I follow is Young Yeah, and in his little segment about it, he mentioned that somebody went on to Twitter and basically did like the breakdown of like, here's what consoles costs in the modern day adjusted for inflation. So like, here's the cost of what the PS1 costs today, like the PS2, the PS3, and so on, and like they're. I think it was like the PS1 was like around like $650, so it was like still kind of comparable. The PS3 was like the most bonkers priced one, where it was like close to $900 today. I think it's like $919 or $920, something like that. And then like this one is $700. I think there's two versions. I can't remember which the difference is. I think one's at $700 and one's at $800, if I'm not mistaken. But like it's the. When you're looking at like Sony consoles, like, yeah, they've always been on the pricier side. Like when you're looking back at like, in the 90s or whatever, and like, oh man, but a PlayStation 1 only cost, $120 or whatever it was at the time, or $90 or whatever. But that's big money back then.
Yeah.
And then like, but like when you put it up against like price points, like you're looking at like the Nintendo Switch, which as far as I know, I think is still $300. Question mark. Probably some different versions with different memory, micro USB sizes and memory sizes and stuff like that.
$299.
$299. Like when you're comparing it against stuff like that, and you're like, well, I think you're comparing against stuff like that, and thing number one, is the Pro doesn't have a native disk drive. So if you want to be able to play older stuff, you need to buy the $700 console, and then on top of that, buy the $80 auxiliary disk drive that you plug into your console so that you can play the stuff that you already have on your PS5. Because you bought not a hardback copy. You bought a physical copy because from the PS3 and the PS4, like sometimes games disappear off that store and they're gone forever because they never get a physical release.
Scott Pilgrim.
Yep, Scott Pilgrim. It's like I still got mine on my Xbox. I bought it when it came out on Switch because you got to cover it in bases, but not everybody has everything saved on some big ass memory card or some big ass hard drive. And then what do you do when that corrodes or gets corrupted?
Right.
Then it's gone forever for real. So, having it doesn't even, I think it doesn't come with a stand. Like you have to buy the stand separately. Which I'm like, come on, what are y'all doing?
So really, it is close to that PS3 price.
It is
initially adjusted for inflation. And that's a large reason why there's an alternate history where the PS3 is, again, we could argue if the price is right because of what they crammed into it, right? We could debate about that. But there's an alternate history where the PS3 is priced correctly, and then maybe Xbox isn't around anymore. Like the 360 is the reason that Microsoft is still around. And I'm not trying to say like if people like Xbox, I love my Xbox, I still play it. But we're talking about like that's what really gave them an install base was how well the 360 did in comparison to how bad the PS3 did starting off. And then they eventually got it fixed, but by then it was already too late. And they have to wait till PS4 to kind of retake that. So this feels like a fail they didn't have to take, like because like for PS4 Pro and these sorry, make sure I get it right, Xbox One X, they at least had already marked down the previous Xbox One and PS4 versions and the slim versions before they released that. So the Pro just kind of took like the current price point. Right. So it's like if the PS5 right now is $599, they had already marked it down. Then when the Pro came out, I was like, okay, this is just going to take that spot. Even if you wanted to mark it up like $50 or $100, it'd still be in that range. So it wouldn't be that crazy. You can kind of see this tiered pricing of versions you can get in at and be accessible to. But like, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what would have been more immediately well received is if from the get-go, like with the PlayStation 2 and with the N64, where they have slots already on the machine for planned future upgrades of whatever kind. It's like you put that on the PS5, and then some, however long it's been since the PS5 has come out, I'm not sure anymore. Like you have sounds about right. But however long it is, like you have like some extra processor come out. So if you want to do, like a bunch of games have come out that like look a little bit better on PC, and like the current specs like don't quite hit that. But if you want to do this thing, like we have like this extra processor that you can slap on to this, auxiliary port that we have on the PS5 to like give you that like extra boost, and it'll upscale your graphics and do this, that, or the other. And it's an extra. Is at $199. Like I think that would be much more approachable for a lot of folks, because then it's not the difference of I've already bought my console and I've spent a huge pile of money, and then I basically need to add $50 to it and do it again to get the new hotness, or they're like another $200 and I'm like, and to enjoy a thing I'm already really enjoying. Like, then we're having the discussion of like, is, minor graphical increase worth, $199 to you versus $700? Because we all know that the answer for the latter question is no. But like the other one is like is to me at least an easier sell.
Yeah.
It's like if you got an extra $700 laying around and you feel like you want two PS5s that basically do the same thing, then by all means buy a PS5 Pro. But at least for me right now, with the games that they've shown, I don't think so.
I want to jump back on the kind of life cycle thing, kind of be like my last spot I have. And I think this goes to the reason like the Switch has done so well in not having comparable graphics. Why the Steam Deck has been able to hit a very niche, not very niche. I don't mean like that, but like it works.
It's carved out of pocket.
Yeah, carved out of pocket, and you got a lot of people trying to like. You've seen like HP and Logitech, everyone's trying to jump in there, and it's like, nah. Yeah, it's
like y'all aren't doing what Valve is doing.
Just stop. But it's like the beauty for the Steam Deck is it gives you access to a lot of fantastic games that you would have liked to have played on the go or have more accessibility to. So like that is like makes sense. It may not, for me personally, may not be the one that because I haven't gotten one. I've gotten to play it a little bit. It's not one. So just for me, it's like I don't really need that, but I totally get it. Like it's one of those things of like if I played more on Steam, would make 100%. That's just not where the bunch of bulk of my library is at. And then for Nintendo, it's easy. You just got IP. So Microsoft and Sony, we've seen the public fights over IP, as far as like Call of Duty and like what's going to be on the next PlayStation, like stuff like that. It's like, oh, we're gonna hold on to this so hard, and we're gonna not let Sony like. Okay, but why don't you just make some why don't you just knock some games out of the park? Can you just do that? Oh, shut up, Mike. Get Google. Hush. Talk to me. It's like if you have deep libraries, this is not a problem.
Yep. There's plenty of games in the library that people have been like, oh man, sure would love to play a new Jack and Dexter. That'd be pretty cool. Oh man, sure would love like there's like or like I was thinking back to like older stuff. Bloody Roar. Great fighting game. Can't remember the last Bloody Roar game.
Probably on PS2. Probably Bloody Roar 4. I don't think there was a PS3 game. I don't think there was a PS3 version. Because there was the Primal Fury came out on the GameCube, and I think 3 and 4 came on PS2, and I think that's been the last ones. There maybe is a mobile one I don't know about or something like that, but but it's like, what are we?
Yeah,
Sony
like
came out.
4.
What year was that?
They were working on Bloody Roar 5 in 2011, and it got canceled.
Yeah, it got canceled.
So I think the studio went down. So I think the last one's Bloody Roar 4 in 2003.
Yeah,
but yeah, so, plenty of stuff on the catalog. Like, I mean, I understand some stuff is like if there's a separate, game dev studio or whatever, you might not be able to get Bloody Roar again. But there's plenty of stuff within the PlayStation IP that like people would be happy to have. It's like could get a new Parappa the Rapper 3, could get a Unjammer Lammy 2. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I know one of the vocalists for Parappa one of the vocalists for Unjammer Lammy, I think she passed away a couple of years ago. It's probably not that one, but Parappa the Rapper is still probably doable.
Like, can we get another Def Jam game? Can we get
the answer from all, like basically almost every rapper involved is no, because they're worth way more money now. So it's basically like completely unfeasible.
Oh, that is true, because it was sort of during this. It was during this very specific pocket of time period. Like it's because you get Vendetta and then Fight for New York.
Yeah. And like now, if you did it again, it would have to. It's got to be all contemporary, like underground rappers. Love to see MF Doom in a Def Jam game. Little late for that, but would have been great.
Yeah. Oh man, dang it! I know you're right about cost. Surely so. This would be the only time I appeal to Bezos. Like, write a check. Please. Oh gosh. Plus, because they need the game to sell so much. Yeah,
he loses $10 billion making Def Jam 3.
So I think, yeah, we got multiple factors of cost. I just worry about life cycle and just the overall catalog that I'm like, it's a turnoff. So, I mean, and this is coming from someone that bought us One X and a PS4 Pro. But to like the point you've been making, it's like I did at least see like those are 4K consoles. So there was at least a like, oh, what is actually being displayed to my TV is significantly different. So like what
I can tell.
Yes. So this is not me like, oh, it's like no, and like HDR support and stuff to a degree. The HDR is okay, and then it got better. On the newer consoles. That said, this is not like it's not starting a whole new topic, but just I think this is very related, and we haven't had a chance to talk about it, and we can spend like 2 minutes on it and kind of how much you want and close out. I think the Apple Vision Pro, I think this basically says that that's done. That's dead.
I don't even know what it is. Is this an Apple VR thing?
Yeah, that's the Apple VR headset.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's just as soon as the price was announced, I was like,
GG.
Wow.
How much? What was the price?
Was it 3,000?
Ooh.
Sure.
That VR headset better let you see God.
Yeah, depending.
$3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 to 389. So, no.
The base model is 3,000. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's wild.
Better let me shoot lasers out of my eyes.
So there's been talk about a non-pro version coming out, but I'm like, just doing those numbers, napkin math would tell you that was still going to be probably right 2,000 at most. And like
unless you could bring it down, like, oh, okay, we took out the thing that lets you shoot eye beams and lets you see through walls or whatever, and it's $800. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
You know, some people tried to defend it because of like, oh, well, you think about having your own PC and stuff, and like I'm like, I can still build a PC that's VR capable. Let's say it's not even top of the line. Let's say it's VR capable. We'll build something that's not going to struggle, but but maybe it's like,
it's just mid.
Yeah, get a mid, and I could tether the Meta Quest, either one, 2, or 3, and still be under $1,000. Easy.
You could build a baller ass computer and buy a good VR headset for less than $3,000.
Right. And then you know what? You still get a baller computer.
I mean,
if like after 2 weeks you're like, VR is not for me. Your consolation prize is you have a baller computer.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, like that's the same criticism of basically every Apple product is you could buy anything else in the market that is a top of the line item for the same price, and it'll perform better and be better in every way than this whatever version of Apple product. You want a tablet? It's like, there's a top of the, like a regular Apple tablet is a top of the line anything else. And I don't mean that in terms of specs, I mean it in terms of price point.
Yeah. Gosh.
But that is on brand for what I would expect an Apple VR headset to be. 6 times the cost and probably just as good as everything else.
But the other reason I thought this was related is because it shows me they don't understand what the problem of VR right now is. It is not a experience issue. It's like a software and a library issue. Like, what am I going to do with this headset?
Play Beat Saber?
And Beat Saber's great, but we need more. We need more Beat Sabers.
Yeah, it's the VR. It's the same like. The best advice that my mom ever gave me as a gamer was that like whenever we want to get a new console, if I want the Game Boy Advance, if I want the GameCube, if I want the PlayStation 2, or I want whatever, I need to show her a list of things that I want to buy for this console. And like it's gotta be it's not the dollar amount that matters that I'm willing to spend, but it's like it's gotta be enough things. Like I need like at least 10 games that I want to get. And it was like, I think maybe the GameCube was like the first thing that she let me get, like when it came out, because I was like, this is the thing that I want. Like, I didn't get the N64. Like, I don't have like, I did get a PS2, but I didn't get an N64. We kind of skipped that generation, not really, because I got the PS2. But I was like, but I'm like, I know that there's like a bunch, there's like 5 games coming out, or there's 6 games coming out, and I want 5 of them. Like, they're all gonna be good. So she was like, all right, that was like the first time. But I'm like, otherwise, like, you got to have a list of stuff that you want to get. And like, for me, I've been slowly compiling my list of VR games. And I'm like, all right, once this list gets high enough, like, I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to grab a headset. But I'm like, it's not yet. It's like a lot of those games is early access. What is it? Sword and Sorcery or whatever. There's Beat Saber.
It's been early access for years.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't buy early access games because I learned better. Well, I still make exceptions, but mostly I learned. Yeah. But like, it's like you said, it's a library issue. Like, it's just not there yet. And for me, and I'm like, I'm watching. I'm like, oh, y'all cooking. It's like soon it's gonna be ready to eat, but it's not for me, not yet.
Not there.
I want my VR headset well done. Thank you.
Like, it needs to, it's like having. We won't use a steak analogy, but we'll use a deep dish analogy. It's like, if it's undercooked, you start pulling that first piece out, you're not going to get gooey cheese. Everything is piling out and a disaster, right?
Good.
Yeah. So we need a well baked. Yeah. Oh man, but I'll do more VR chats. I want VR to do well. It's just, but I hated Apple getting into it because I'm like, this is just not helping right now, and this is just not what we need.
I mean, I feel like for Apple, they're just like, yo, what can I do to make a whole bunch of money for like not that much effort? And it's like, let's just make an okay VR headset. It's like, people will buy it. It's like, you think so? And it's like, bro, we make an iPhone every year. People buy that. And it's like, yeah, you're right. My bad.
Oh man, yeah. So we'll keep you up to date when the PS5 Pro eventually drops. I'm probably not getting it, at least not right now. If I do, it's gonna be sometime later. Heck, and I need to. I still haven't. This is gonna be funny because I haven't even updated SSD on my PS5 yet. So I probably need to do that first before I jump and grab a Pro. Yeah. But yeah, that's all we got for our main topic. For folks that are out there, if you're watching us on Twitch, YouTube, on the Facebooks, definitely make sure to give the pages a follow. Should be back next week, either State of Nerd Union or me and myself and Tom will be talking movies on Tuesdays. Did you have a throwback?
I was recently going through something, and I was like, I was like, I think it was Gauntlet, because I can't remember the N64 list, but I was literally saying to my friend the other day, and I'm like, man, you know what I could really go for? I wanted like a 4-player run through of Gauntlet, with like the squad or whatever. And basically he was like, yo, I'm so down. Everybody else was like, hell no, Satisfactory 1.0 just came out. Leave me alone.
Oh no, I loved Gauntlet games. I adored them.
So much fun.
It's
What's
funny that it's when we were talking about Gauntlet Legends, it's kind of, I'm trying to remember. Well, it's wild that it needed the RAM expansion though. It's wild because it was on PS2, and I felt like it was on Dreamcast. And it must have missed Saturn. I think because I had it on Dreamcast. I think that's why I was looking weird for a second. I was like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
And it must have released it also on GameCube and PS2. It must have been around that weird transition period. It's not like a launch per se, but I think it might have been in that. Like, oh hey, we'll throw this on.
Apparently on N64 you couldn't play 4-player local co-op without the expansion pack,
but you could just play it by yourself.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that? It's the best when you can get a piece on a Friday night and have folks jumping out.
Yeah, it looks like the regular pack you could play 3-player co-op, but you couldn't. But you needed the expansion pack to do 4.
Oh man. So yeah, okay. My throwback is Alien Isolation. Kind of
Oh yeah,
used
yeah.
it earlier, but I want to tell a story. My friend Josh is probably not listening. He works for a VR company out in Colorado, and he got that initially because he was working on some different VR, like back when the Oculus Rift dev kit first came out, and surprisingly, there's still people that don't know there is a VR version of Alien Isolation. Because it's initially it was just on there. It wasn't like a easy thing to grab off of Steam and just play. Like you had to like actually go in, set it up on your computer. Like it wasn't just like there was kind of some different backend stuff
you had to do the real install the old school way.
Yes. So it's easier now, but when it came out and that dev kit was out for the VR, it wasn't as easy when it started. So he invites us to his house. He's like, "Yo, I got Alien Isolation up," and I'm like, "Where's the TV?" He's like, "No, you're gonna put the headset on." I'm like, and he had the Nostromo missions up where you kind of play as Ripley and the crew, crew expendable missions on it, and I did not do well because that was I had not played it yet. So that was my first intro to it. It was in VR, really good. It looked great. It ran great on the Rift, and was just failing left and right and kind of like being like, nope. I've never ripped my headset off faster. So when I think about going back to finish that game, I'm like, I have all these states that are like about 56%. I'm like, yeah, because I watch people play it on Twitch, and I know it's only going to get worse because you have to go into a hobby and like, I'm like, So yeah, that's my throwback. A 2013 game that's, man, that's wild. That's 10 years old. It still looks that good.
People making good games back then. It's the 20 years old where you're like, okay, I believe that's 20 years old.
For sure. Oh man, we're gonna be coming up on some anniversaries this year, and we don't have to do it now, but I want to come back and talk about Spider-Man 2.
Okay, yeah.
It's like it's 20 years. It's 20 years. It was 20 years this summer because the movie came out. I guess June or July, and then the game came out like a week later, and we'll just talk about
amazing.
How solid that. So good.
Yep.
So good.
I got some fun anecdotes.
Word. Cool. But that is State of Nerd Union for this Monday. Steve, good to see you.
Yeah, man. Good to see you. Good to talk about some nerd stuff.
Nerd stuff. Doug, thanks for chiming in for a little bit. Thanks for everyone to give us comments on across the platforms, and we'll see you next time.
Alrighty. Take care.